528,000 jobs were added just last month to this country's employment. 528,000 jobs. We have now nearly doubled what we're almost at 10 million jobs. Almost at 10 million jobs since I took office. That's the fastest job growth in history. Today, we also match the lowest unemployment rate in America in the last 50 years.
Folks, the state lawmakers increased the standard deduction again for the state income tax early this year. So, a new study found that eviction moratoriums and cash income from extended unemployment insurance and stimulus payments helped thousands of people deal with the struggling stimulus crisis. The study released Wednesday by the Economic Roundtable indicates that homelessness increased from 13% to around 29% from 2020 to 2022. It would also be increased to 23% without the interventions from the fourth stimulus. The study said that eviction moratoriums, cash payments kept households, workers intact during these times. These two interventions work together. The report argues that the same measures increased by reemployment services should be used to lessen another possible surge in homelessness if there is a recession next year. The analysis found that an increase of the unemployment rate to 5.25 could cause an estimated 7,000 people in LA County to lose their housing over the next 4 years. The effect will be nationwide, with more than 20,000 newly homeless people in California, nearly 62,000 in the United States. So the big thing is to learn from our successes in the country, and to keep on doing things that work to help out the homeless. Protecting people's housing and incomes who are at risk of becoming homeless is simple and more productive. So the number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits still fell again last week. It's a sign that the labor market remains strong, even as the Fed continues to raise it. Applications for jobless claims fell to 211,000, down by 20,000 from the previous week. Jobless claims are seen as a proxy for layoffs, and last week's level was among the lowest in more than 2 months. American workers have extraordinary job security at the moment, despite an economy seeing danger of tipping into recession due to aggressive rates. The Fed has raised benchmark again 7 times this year in an effort to slow the economy down. But so far, Fed officials have signaled that it's just to slow down inflation. It might not be a solution to the problem, but at least it's something. But $2,000 may finally be coming soon. There is a new stimulus check proposal. It includes at least one more inflation relief check for hundreds of thousands of people. The state officials are working together on this to make sure stimulus money gets into your pockets by New Year's. Amid the crisis, there was the question of whether Pennsylvania will be able to send $2,000 checks to Pennsylvania residents. It came amid the federal government's popular stimulus program. In the governor's plan, Pennsylvania households with an income of $80,000 or less will receive $2,000 checks. He said the residents facing inflation at the grocery store and gas pump or $2,000 would be a really nice help. The Opportunity Plan included $225 million in support for small businesses, $204 million for direct property tax relief, and $300 million for the healthcare system. Any American Rescue Plan money that Pennsylvania received that remains unused by December 31st will return to the federal government. So this only means one thing: $1 billion stimulus package. Individuals who earn less than $200,000 in 2021, for instance, will receive a $50 income tax benefit under this proposal. Illinois residents who paid property taxes can also meet the certain salary requirements and get a $300 stimulus check as well. The Fed and the stock market are butting heads over the central bank effort to fight the rising cost of living. According to data released the night before the federal government was set out, inflation measured by the CPI index had fallen again. But still, what this means is that a fourth stimulus check is only increasingly more needed for the people that need it the most.
Here are some of the worst parts of the omnibus. First, to state the obvious, the omnibus spends too much, increasing the deficit and fueling even more inflation. Now, the Democrats have been fired. They had 4 years. Let's just look at recent history. When Republicans had the majority in the House for 8 years, and you look at discretionary spending from the day we got the gavel to the day we had to hand it back, you know how much it increased? Zero. You've had it for 4 years before you got fired again. You know how much you increased? Discretionary spending? 1/3. Over $440 billion. You want to know why we have inflation, the highest it's been in 41 years? You won the majority, and you wasted it, and you spent too much, and you harmed the American public. The worst thing any government could do to its public is bring inflation. And that's exactly what you're continuing. This bill increases the baseline spending by $134 billion. Let me put it another way. The American hardworking taxpayer, you just added $1.5 trillion over 10 years to the national debt when we're already drowning in $31 trillion in debt. I don't remember the people requesting that, but in your definition, that's what you did. And what kind of projects are such high priorities? Do we have to increase spending by so much? Well, some left-wing pet projects. Let's look for example of what the people really requested here. For example, there's $2.35 million for the Leahy Center in Vermont, named after Senator Patrick Leahy. Well, who requested it? Well, Patrick Leahy did. Who wrote the bill? Patrick Leahy. Meanwhile, Chairwoman Deloria bragged that the omnibus fulfills 98...
Many of you are wondering whether your state or city is sending out their own fourth stimulus check. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you the details of the latest state stimulus relief plans, as well as what President Biden is doing to make a few changes to his fourth stimulus package. States are seeing some of the highest gas prices in U.S. history. AAA reports that a national average for a gallon of gas is $4.95 a gallon. The average across Idaho is about $5.03. Both averages are up in recent days, and Democratic representatives and his colleagues sent a letter to the governor of Idaho proposing a new crisis relief idea. The Democratic representatives said that they're proposing that they do a special session and meet for the sole purpose of considering a gas tax holiday piece of legislation. So a special session can only be held and called by the governor. If he did call a special session in response to the proposal, Democrats only want one bill considered. This bill would essentially pursue Idaho's tax gas for 6 months. The current gas tax in Idaho is at 32 cents a gallon, meaning people in Idaho would get some relief at the pump. And the representative said it's a great way to get that money back in pockets of people in Idaho who are just there saying to go and spend the money on the economy. You could think of it as a targeted tax break. Idaho's gas tax goes towards gem state roads and maintenance. The proposed gas tax holiday will cost the state about $180 million that will go towards that. And these two Democratic representatives point to the state's budget surplus as a solution to making that fund whole. It also says a big plus for him in the proposal is the concept of the gas tax will help all people in Idaho fill up their gas tank. Relief from soaring gas prices might also be on the way for people of West Virginia. During a regular briefing this week, the West Virginia governor said that he is considering calling a special session of the state legislature, and he said that the gas tax holiday is at the top of the list of issues that he potentially bring to the table. According to CNN, the fastest and most effective way to protect vulnerable citizens from the impacts of global economic